Mary Louise Cook for the Big Sky Conference, joined by a panel of athletic directors from around the conference. I have with me Montana State's Leon Costello, Idaho's Terry Gawlik, and Eastern Washington's Lynn Hickey. So Leon, we'll start with you. How do you assess how your men's and women's basketball programs have handled playing during a pandemic?
Well, first of all, I think it's a huge feat that we're even playing right now. And so a lot of praise goes to them because it's a year unlike we've ever seen before. And so they've had to go through a lot of different protocols just to get to the point to where they're playing. You know, it's how they enter our building, it's testing, it's what they have to do on campus in order to remain safe. And so I give them a lot of credit just for the sheer fact that we're playing. And then, assessing games, and I think everybody on this panel would say it's just different. But I think when you talk to the student athletes and when I talk to them, the interesting thing to me is once they start playing, they don't really notice anything else, so they don't notice there's no crowd. They don't notice, they're just in the moment and they're playing and they're excited about playing. I think when those big moments come during the game, I think that's when they see, they expect like a big roar and it's not there. But I think assessing during this time is just that, we're all just happy that we're playing games. We're happy that this is a small step into what figures to be hopefully a shorter term road now with all the information we're getting to get back to normal.
What about for you, Lynn?
Well, they number one, they've been outstanding in that I'm a former basketball coach and I love to practice. And for people to put limitations on your practice, how often you can be together and when you're together, what you can or cannot do, I would have been going nuts because I want to run every drill and we're going to do it one more time, and I want everybody on the court. So they have really adjusted well. And once again, have had to do a lot of things virtually with the students where, all from last summer all the way through the start of the season. I think really, I think one of the things we've learned is to really hold a high standard with the students on our medical protocols, to have everybody accountable, because there was a tendency once we kind of got started, like, hey, we're okay. And then all of a sudden there's some people walking through the office and all that. Guys, we can't do this. And we're not trying to be mean, but we've got to stay true to those protocols. And so, and especially for the students offline, when they're not with us, what they're doing, in their daily lives. Adjusting practices, being able to adjust practice that, hey, we can still compete. We may just have to practice a little bit differently. We've got, early on, the social distancing was such a huge part of it before we got into the testing. And then on the scheduling issue, we've had to make some hard decisions. We've lost some games and we get in a panic. Well, let's schedule this and wait, step back, because our long term is trying to really do well in conference play. So we may have to give up on some non-conference things.
Now, Terry, as of today, between men's and women's basketball, you've been faced with 6 cancellations. What does the process of rescheduling games look like for your programs?
Obviously, our coaches are heavily involved when that occurs, unfortunately, whether it be on our end or on the opponent's end. So several things that I've asked the coaches to do. One, stay positive. I know that coaches, and I was a former coach, you don't like not being in control, if you will, of everything. So just stay positive and have your student athletes realize that you're just going to have to move and bend, and we're in a flux. And if you want to get games in, we just have to keep working at it. And I want to commend them for staying positive and being involved. And then, of course, I have our head trainer involved, and we obviously check on the sensitivity that the Big Sky has put forward about the testing and the protocols, and safety is always first in our mind. And certainly I prefer that if possible, we reschedule somebody close enough that we could either have a drive or possibly a flight there and back. So all those things go into consideration.
What is the most valuable lesson you and your staff have learned that you can apply to the spring?
I think as a leader, you need to be transparent. You need to have empathy. You need to be vulnerable. I think there's a certain, you've got to kind of be the upbeat person. We can do this, blah, blah, blah. At a certain point in time, that gets old because things keep happening. So I think to be able to let the staff, and the students you're working with is, hey, this is tough. This is hard. This is what I'm going through, for there to be some humanity in it. And then to focus on, hey, we can take care of what we can take care of. Let's do a really good job with that. Then at the same time, trying to blend in, hey guys, we're not done. This is what we want to do. Let's don't lose sight of our aspirations and what we want to do long term.
What about for you, Terry?
Be nimble. I will say this, it's allowed myself to really get to know, the folks on this call or the Big Sky Conference or even my own staff, because you really, really have to rely on each other, talk to each other. And, in the world of athletics, you're on call 24/7 anyway. But in this particular case, you might be talking to your training staff every single day and just maneuvering through. And again, being collegial and working as a team within our own league and what's best for the league and our programs.
Yeah, and what about for you? What's a lesson that you've learned from basketball going on that you can apply to the spring?
Yeah, I think Terry hit the nail on the head when she's talking about understanding, having a team around you that can adapt on the fly, because we've seen information change almost daily, and we've had to be very flexible. But I think being organized and making sure that the information gets communicated in a timely fashion, and because that information changes, you want everybody to be working off the same playbook, if you will. And so making sure that our communication lines are open, and then being organized, because in our facility structure, we're going to have a lot of teams practicing in the same areas or lifting in the same areas on a daily basis. And so we need to make sure that whatever that day looks like, we make sure that we stick to the plan, because we're going to have a lot more teams wanting more time in those spaces during the spring than we ever have before. And obviously with our weather here in Montana, there's another issue there, because a lot of those teams are coming inside. And so we have to make sure that our plan each and every day is very organized and we're able to communicate in a timely fashion.
Lynn, what has been the greatest challenge that you've been faced with as an athletic director since March?
Probably one of the most difficult things were the unknowns, just not knowing sometimes. And then the how quickly everything would change. The conference has worked so well together, the ADs and the staff. It's been amazing. And we have talked to each other. I checked the other day, I have an average of 4 meetings a day with my peers. That never happened before. So that's a positive, but it takes a lot more time. And then we would develop something and it would change 24 hours later. And so trying to explain that to students, to parents, and as well as staff was probably one of the most difficult things.
Leon, what is the significance of your basketball players, coaches, and staff having the conference tournament to look forward to at the end of the season?
I think it's going to be a great bookend for the basketball programs, because of everything that happened last year and having this opportunity taken away from them. Now that we've gone through, we were at the lowest of lows, and now we're working our way back up to the top of that mountain. And to be able to see that tournament happen, I think is going to be a great testament of success, not only for Montana State University, but as a conference, that we've been able to get through an entire season with whatever hurdles lie ahead of us, but to a kind of a conclusion to who that champion is, just because of last year is so fresh in our minds. That I think for our student athletes' health and mental health and our coaches' well-being, that, being able to complete a season is just going to be such a momentum builder for all of our other sports. Yeah.
So playing off of that, actually, Terry, now having basketball underway, despite the cancellations, what kind of excitement and hope do you see from those fall and spring sport athletes when they see basketball going on and knowing that they're going to get their shot to play soon?
Well, knock on wood, for the last couple of weeks, it's been pretty smooth for basketball. It was rocky, I'll be honest, at first. And it was frustrating, because you've been doing all the things right, whether face covering, all the testing you're doing, and then all of a sudden you had a step backwards because somebody was exposed or whatnot. So now it's kind of evened out a little. And the way I look at it, basketball for us was a test case. when we were applying things as we went along and adjusting things. And so now we kind of have that under our belt and have gotten started. And I think it'll even be more streamlined once we get into conference play. So I can see the kids kind of, oh yeah, we can do this, and let's be more cautious. Let's really follow the protocol, even to a more significant level. And we get it that we might not be able to have fans or see our family, which is unfortunate. I mean, that's hard. But, it was myself and the head trainer and the president rooting our team on to victory from the stands. So that was kind of fun. So I just know the athletes, they're not taking it lightly, that we've done a lot. We, not only as an institution, but a conference, to allow them to compete. And I think they're really, really thankful. So there's a lot of excitement going on.
Awesome. That's wonderful to hear. So I just want to say thank you. We've had such a wonderful panel today. Thank you for your leadership and for all of your hard work to make athletics happen in the Big Sky.